Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on the first episode of Season 1. Yes, I'm officially going to take the plunge. Season 0, if you were listening to that, consider yourself an alpha, beta tester of the channel, because we did take all the feedback that we were getting from our very small core group of listeners, and we decided to apply it, and we're going to continue on. And when I say we're, I have Mike across the table from me. Mike, what's going on? You're back.
How's it going?
You are not fired.
I'm not fired. Awesome.
You are still the main and most prominent co-host on the podcast, so
I appreciate that.
I'm very happy you're here, and I appreciate you offering your time and driving all the way down here to this wonderful studio to keep us going. So, we are starting Season 1 right off Season 0. We've had the turn of the new year, so we're officially starting in 2019. And Mike, it's getting a little crazy out there. If you're listening to mainstream media, if you're following the news, if you're following Trump, U.S. world news, it's a little crazy. I had myself a thing over 2019 where it's like people were being plagued by 2018, like illness, depression, problems. It just kept happening. So we survived 2018. Here we are in 2019, and hopefully it's a better year for everybody moving forward. Mike, if you can just tell me where is your head out right now starting 2019?
Well, I made a conscious decision to not follow the news as much in the past 6 months or something like that.
6 months?
6 months, a year, whatever it's been.
You got to keep up a little bit more.
I know, but yeah, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I follow the news just to kind of get a general idea of what's going on. But for me to obsess about the news right now, it's not healthy for anyone. And I've definitely dramatically cut back on my social media consumption just by a lot.
Yeah.
Because when the election was going on, it was frankly a nightmare just seeing the amount of divisiveness that people went through. So I'm very much, and the purpose of this podcast and working with you and everything is to take a lot of steps backwards, just take a look at the big picture and bring everything, at least as for me as an individual and for you as an individual, just kind of back to baseline a little bit and be like, what's really going on here? That's the question we're always going to be asking. What can I do as an individual to make my life better, other people's lives better? It's a very practical thing for us to have this podcast going on. And did you want to talk about the subject that we're going to be tackling today?
Mike, you can just bring us right in.
I'm ready to write in.
Okay,
so the media right now has this really peculiar problem, is the way I'd frame it, is that everything has become polarized. Every story, it's all become this gigantic sports team thing going on.
There's a lot of sports teams.
Yeah, and it's at the point where I just tapped out. I can't handle it anymore because it's so incoherent and unreasonable to watch a political thing going on right now. It sucks. And I know that 2020 is right around the corner. And we're going to start this whole clusterfuck nightmare all over again. And it's going to suck so much. And
wait, that starts this year.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Wait, no. It doesn't start this year because essentially
it starts.
The president would.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we had to do an election, the president would run in 2020 for 2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, we
have
time.
one more year.
But you know how this is. I mean, they're just itching to have it again where we're right back to square one and we're right back to get each other's throats and all this stuff. And it's a weird thing when you think about humanity because when you talk to people, sometimes you just see that they're just waiting for you to give them a signal. And the question they ask themselves is, are you on my side or are you not on my side? That's the question that they might not ask, but that's what they mean. Like the Donald Trumps, the Sean Hannitys, the Michael Moores, the Al Sharptons, they're all essentially the same in a weird way where they're an individual, they're part of a team, and it's like, are you supporting my team? Like, yes or no? Well, you're not supporting my team because blah, blah, blah. And it's like an unreasonable...
It generally makes you a bad person if you're not on that team.
It really does because I've been there before where you're part of a political ideology or even like a sports fan or something, and it just becomes a really unreasonable way to look at the world, especially with as far as we've gotten in the past 20 years.
Well,
so yeah.
I feel like there needs to be a social reset.
Yeah.
When I talk to my friends, when I talk to individuals, I feel like the individual is under attack because who you are is always lumped into some sort of group. And if you can't be identified by a group, you're dismissed. Like, I'm an individual, and I have different views,
Yeah.
but you have to approach me on my... You have to approach me. You can't throw me into a box and then deal with me like every other person that you would put in that box. For instance, on my social networking, I don't want to say... I'll just say social networking because it's just easier.
No.
There's an individual I always come across, and he knows who he is, Topher. And I agree with him on a lot of things, and then I don't. And the thing is, some of the memes and some of the posts are so generalized where if you think about this, then you're terrible. And one of them was, can you imagine being as stupid as being from California? And I'm like, listen.
What does that mean?
Well, like, because California does maybe some radically leftish liberal stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like the front line for some of that too. And so he makes fun of California all the time. And I said, okay, well, stop watching movies that are from Hollywood. Get off Twitch TV because that's all California. Stop using, I started listing out everything that he should stop using because of California. And he's like, well, what does that have to do with this? I'm like, well, why did you say that about California?
Yeah, that's a pretty silly thing to say.
But it's what I'm getting at is saying something like so general about California and everybody there is, can you imagine being so stupid you're from California? Like, that's a box statement. Now, that's a dumb box statement. It's a super general one.
No.
But that's similar to saying being Democratic and being Republican, super right and super left, and are you for cops? Are you for the minority communities? Like it. Once you're in a social engagement with someone and you get put in a box, well, that's what you have to deal with. And that's why I don't think people are having better conversations.
Well, here's the problem with people in the long term. I mean, we're not used to living with each other. We're not used to being like this big, diverse group of people. It's a very new thing. We're talking the past few hundred years where people of different nationalities and they're living together and everything. Usually it's kind of like you would visit someone, but then you separate and you go back to your country or whatever. I mean, I was Googling the other day, and I'm looking at like the 100 Years' Wars, and if you go to Wikipedia and you look that up, it was a war from 1337 to 1453, between England and France, and you can read more about just the amount of chaos that went on in human history, and the Crusades, and every single tribal conflict in Rome, and this like. We're the descendants of all those people in a lot of ways.
That's a good point.
Wherever you're from, just take like the Philippines or Africa or South America or anywhere your ancestors came from, you have kind of a genetic, what's the right word? Burden. You have a genetic burden on your hands dealing with all of your crazy emotions as a human being. And when you're dealing with conflict for literally tens of thousands and possibly even millions of years of just tribal warfare between one group and another group, there's no room for an individual to say, hey, that guy on the other team, the other tribe, the other country or whatever, he's okay. I mean, he's fine. No, they're going to come in, they're going to steal your money, they're going to steal your women, your resources, and they're going to kill you. That's been the story of humanity for hundreds of thousands of years. And the problem is we feel this way about the tribes that we go to war with all the time. But instead of France and England or whatever, now it's Republicans and Democrats, or now it's rich versus poor, black and white, or cops versus blacks, or this or that. And it becomes this really convoluted, incoherent thing because it's kind of not totally impractical to think this way because we're fighting for survival. We're fighting for our genetic line. We're fighting for all these things. But we don't really have to fight as hard now because it's going to be 2020 next year.
And
Jesus.
I'm going to add to your point. Back then, we're what I call a global gridlock.
Yeah.
You can talk to the whole world right now. If you had that great of a video on YouTube or something, your message can reach the world, anybody that's got an internet connection. Also, we're very aware of each other, we're aware of our boundaries, and we're aware of the resources that we have in the world. Mm-hmm. So we have this global gridlock. There is no getting away. Also, your expectations of the people are there because there's information. We have information on the web about the people from France. We have information about the people from Britain. We have information about the people in the Middle East. That information is there for you to consume, understand, and make your best judgment to move forward if you're going into those areas, because we can travel anywhere now in the world because of planes.
Yeah.
I always said, I thought it'd be interesting if the Native Americans on the U.S. continent, if first of all they spoke similar languages, because that's one of the problems they had. They had resource bouts, So you're hunting over there, and can we hunt over here? And we just need a couple. But they couldn't communicate that to each other. So I'm like, if Native Americans from back then had cell phones and the information that we had now, there'd be. I feel like they have some things against them as being savages, but that's probably because they didn't know any better, and it's no different than the religious wars that were happening.
Yeah, I mean that's
elsewhere.
a very very subjective thing, like savages, because yeah, there was savagery going around in all races back
right.
200 years ago. I mean, you look at like Battle of Little Bighorn, I think it's called, with General Custer and everything. It was barbarism during those type of conflicts. It was just unbelievable the amount of just death and destruction and horror that people always have unleashed with each other. And Penn Jillette always says a quote that I try to always bring up, and I'll paraphrase this. I'll try to get it right. Because the world is always getting better, but we always think it's getting worse. So as bad as like the Trump administration has been with all this polarization and everything, I mean, you can't even compare the world 50 years ago to now.
You're
to
right.
Just the amount of progress in medicine. And I mean, Jordan Peterson talks about like the sub-Saharan African continent, how the amount of people taken out of poverty just in the past like 15 years or something ridiculous. And I got to look this up.
I heard that. I heard him say that.
I don't know the exact numbers, but it's a miracle what the world is going through right now, because more people are dying from obesity than starvation. Think about that. People just have to take a second. Give me 3 seconds, guys. Everybody think about that for 3 full seconds. Ready? Does everyone understand what that means to have so much food that people are overeating compared to 200 years ago, how awful it was just to eat and survive?
Just famine was a thing?
Oh my God. The Black Plague and all this stuff. And people sometimes get mad at me for being optimistic, because it's like, hey, just because things are great now doesn't mean we have work to do. We have to fight racism. We have to fight this and that. I'm with you, but you have to have some perspective on how far we've come.
But you know what's disappointing, though? Because when you're at home and you're enjoying like a futuristic movie, let's say, or some sort of... There's science fiction out there. There's even scenarios in fiction where there'll be a society that has their shit together. Or you could shut out all the problems of the world and you're very happy at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why can't this comfort zone just be everywhere? Like,
it shouldn't be.
I've got this comfort zone. I have a job, and I don't have problems with people. So then why can't, like, if I don't have, honestly, I don't have to go to war, right? Like, me as an individual, I don't have to go to war. So it's like, why do we have this budget that just, all these war machines have to be completely manufactured and we're slaughtering people, right? So in my perspective, and a lot of perspectives, in the perspective of a lot of Americans, I'll just say, there's a comfort zone, people are happy. And it's like, well, we're like this close, because if you can have that at moments, why can't we have it more? Why can't we come together more? Why can't we understand each other more? And I don't know where the communication breakdown is. We need an answer for racism and stuff, but if the communication was just better, we have this global network. It just seems like we're so close. We want it. You know, like it's right there, but we have these obstacles. And for you and I, the way we perceive them, it's like, come on. Like, as if more people kind of expanded and thought like us, we probably could be evolving. So I feel like the reason we're doing this podcast is to help push that process and urge it on more.
But even just with you and me, as long as you and me have a better way to treat other people, I mean, this podcast is worth doing. You know what I mean? I mean, if we get a handful of people listen to us, that's great, and I appreciate anyone who's listened to us in the short time we've been doing this, because that's been really helpful. But there's a way to communicate to people. Like the way I like talking to you for this reason. I'm looking in your face, and we're talking. Twitter and all that shit does not do anyone any good when it comes to just trying to connect with another human being. It's not good. It's not healthy, and it reaches a point where I want to focus on myself, not to be selfish, but I don't want to be a liability to society. I want to be an asset. How do I become an asset?
That's a great point.
How do I help people? I mean, I carry a multi-tool with me everywhere I go, just to nerd out a little bit.
And that's helped me.
But like, I'll just show you real quick. It's a Leatherman multi-tool. I carry it with it everywhere I go, because so many times in my life, someone says, "Oh man, I need a screwdriver. Here you go. I need this cut. And here you go, scissors." Like, I love having a multi-tool on me, because it's just a very useful thing, and I'm a nerd in that sense,
And I'm an IT guy.
Yeah.
And so people trying to communicate, and the computers need to get fixed or whatever the case may be, and I'll just wrap up on the keyboard and fix problems, and I'm helpful in that sense, and plus I'm actually, I feel like a decent human being.
Yeah, it's good to just help people. I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but we have such a long way to go. Because I mean, I live in Queens and I commute to Manhattan every day. It's rough. Excuse me. It's rough out there in Manhattan. Like right now, especially. I think there's a weird like back to the bad old days type thing going on. You know what I mean?
It's still not as bad as it was, though.
No, absolutely
That's for
not.
sure.
Absolutely not. I remember when I was a kid, it was just a different world, you know. But there's definitely a lot. We got to come a long way because there's never a point where everything's going to be fine. That's not what reality is. Reality is always reassessing and rebuilding and always like transitioning into something new. Not just there's no stability, there's no equilibrium. It's always something we have to fight for and improve on. And with this podcast, it's just a way to do it. Just like, what's wrong with me? Tell me what's wrong with me. Tell me where I'm wrong. And my favorite question I'm always going to ask is, what's really going on here?
Well,
because it's important.
I want to tell you, I had a great conversation with Chris, who's actually on the next podcast after this. And it was just us driving around. And I was telling him, really, the only thing that you can affect from your perception and your consciousness is what's around you. Now, granted, we're on this internet thing right now. This is being posted to YouTube and other podcast sites, and so our voices and our message could be heard by other people, but I can't affect those people directly, and they can't affect me back unless I meet them somehow, whether it is in virtual space. So what I was saying,
no, go.
So what I was saying is, you just have to do your best with what's around you.
But here's just to kind of bring it back to the theme of this thing. Do you think the media does a disservice with all these crazy things that they're saying and doing that just divides people more and makes people more aggressive and more competitive, and it's just this weird thing going on? And I hate to use the term sides, but both sides are guilty of this, and that they're never going to admit it. But I think it's really shitty what's going on right now, and it's worse than I remember in any other election times. Like, I don't remember being that bad.
Well, maybe I don't think the differences were being as highlighted. Like, maybe the differences existed, but because the way you accrue gather information wasn't as efficient, it wasn't just highlighted.
But is there something deeper going on? Because I feel like if you hear about like Vietnam stories, right? I mean, you talk about guys who were fighting the Viet Cong, quote unquote. Like, they dehumanized them to a point where they weren't people anymore. And I think that there's so many cases of that happening where you just dehumanize people to the point where they don't matter anymore. Who cares if you punch them in the face? Who cares if you spit on them or shoot them or kill them? Whatever it is, they're not people. They think differently. They're different. They're the other, you know? And so many people on the left have this thing about how awful it is to treat others, quote unquote, like others. But then they do the same thing to people who voted for Donald Trump. And I voted third party, and I'm not changing my view anytime soon. I think I'm a protest vote all the time against the right and the left because they're both incoherent and annoying at this point.
Well, I'm going to slow you down and answer your question. Is the media partaking in this? And there's a couple ways to answer yes.
Yeah.
Because, yes, they have to make a profit. So sensationalism and kind of stirring up emotion will invest you. For instance, right now, like a sports game, there's reporters at the border of Mexico and the U.S. waiting for the migrants to show up and see what happens with the cameras rolling. Like, there's people waiting. So that's some sensationalism. Now, for me, I just want to turn that off.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen. It's going to be dealt with. But why do we have to put a massive magnifying glass on it? And, it's, I guess whatever happens is our decision as a country, but is it really our decision? You know, if you can genuinely grab everyone and say, what should we do with these migrants? Like, each person. Or if you could debate, what should we do with people that are experiencing this hardship? Would it just be, like, the answer is not just leave them outside the wall. There's some other humane answer that we just can't choose from. It's not in the multiple choice. So, yes, the media is dividing. Is it sensationalism? And then the conspiracy theorists would say, is it being done on purpose to keep us divided and our mindset from evolving and going forward? Because if us as people could unify way more, that would be very progressive. And if I'm running off a thing, but like, it could be two things. Yes, they need to profit. Yes, maybe it's better if we're sort of divided, but we're united. You know, I don't understand what good comes out of this besides the people standing up to these, uh, like us. So we're not standing up to it. We're confronting it. We're confronting this diversity. We're confronting this divisiveness. So my answer is yes and yes.
Because you're right. I didn't really think of it so much as the sensationalism is more profitable. So that's why they're doing it. Because I mean, it's a weird thing when you have a story that breaks because one person said something racist or someone assaulted someone or a cop shot someone, whatever it is. Something terrible happens in this country, and that becomes the story of the day for a day, maybe even like a week or something. But it becomes this weird thing where that's not a story. That's not relevant to anyone's life, but it's an excuse to have the poor and the rich fight with each other. Or it's like the more polarizing you are, the more popular you are, the more money you make. And it's just a weird thing right now because Donald Trump is just the epitome of that.
Oh yeah, he's 50-50.
He would say shit that you know that he just wants to get people angry on purpose just because he gets more attention paid to him now. And he's the president. How much more fucking attention do you need? And it's just like, it's mind-boggling. It's so bizarre.
Like sometimes, like I have to wonder sometimes if sort of the conspiracy theorist, it's like, are they really destroying his image because he's not completely with the system? Or is he that stupid? Or not that stupid, or is he that, or is he what they're making him out to be?
I don't know.
It's so extreme that it's like, what is it?
The crazy thing with Donald Trump, and I'm not really like a Trump hater as much as most people.
Same.
Like I look at him, I'm like, all right, this guy's an older gentleman. He only really knows like real estate, New York City, hyper competitive. He's like Bane. He was born in the darkness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Remember Dark Knight Rises? He was Bane. All right. He just doesn't really know anything else besides ego and selfishness and greed and all this stuff. But I mean, he's done halfway decent things that people don't give a shit about.
They go under the radar because it doesn't
like
get covered.
I haven't really read it, but apparently the criminal justice reform is like really groundbreaking right now. I think like even Van Jones on MSNBC was just like, yeah, this is objectively awesome. Like, congratulations to the president. This is a guy on the left saying that. You know, hemp. You know about hemp and CBD oil?
I haven't heard.
All that stuff. Like, apparently, like, hemp has been decriminalized, which is going to be this gigantic cash crop
huge.
coming out. And that was like a libertarian fantasy for like, I want to say 20, 30 years at least. I mean, probably 100 years at this point. But I mean, the hemp thing, it was like a big issue. And I'm going to look it up more this week, but I'm pretty sure like that's going to be a big win for this country to get hemp legalized and everything. And I always found it funny how people hate on the Space Force. It's like, that's a really good idea, guys. Like, everybody get it together. Like, Donald Trump is weird. He has weird hair. He's an asshole. I get it. But the Space Force is not something to harp on as being this terrible idea. That's a really good idea, guys.
It's another sensationalized thing, though, because you think Space Force and you think Star Wars, you think Star Trek, right? You have that mindset at first, and aliens, right? Essentially, it's like, well, when we realized that we had boats and the boats could be used as war machines, you needed a navy. So now Army becomes Navy. And who's like, oh, look at these guys floating on water. You guys got to fight on the water floating?
It was the Army Air Force before it was the Air Force.
Yeah, then now we have planes and we have things in the sky. And
it wasn't
hey, we're going to make an Air Force. Oh, these guys flying around.
Assholes up there flying
around. And now we're like, well, we have satellites in space.
Yeah.
We have all this debris out there, and we're going to need to be able to combat things in space. Not necessarily like explosions and stuff, but I think, like rogue satellites that are spying.
It's a really good idea.
So it's like Space Force, but like the Force thing is like, if you just say Air Force and then you say Space Force, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But without saying both at the same time, it sounds
Air Force and Space Force. You have to say both.
Space Fleet.
But Donald Trump, he can't really win because he dug his own grave in a weird sense because the way he's treated people for 20, 30 years, whatever it's been, he can't just be a normal politician now that he's president. He can't just be like, when he does good, people reward him. When he does bad, people punish him. People are just blindly are going to hate that guy because of his personality, because of the way he tweets and all this crazy bullshit. And he just kind of screws himself because I think he wants to be loved. I really do. I think he wants to be like at the end of his presidency, he wants to be known as like the greatest president ever. He wants to be this beloved like historical figure. But then he'll tweet the most preposterous shit ever and get like Like, why don't they love me? It's like, because you're a weirdo. That's why. Because you're out of your mind. Like, why are you tweeting this? You're the president.
It's that perspective thing, and
Yeah.
and so, dude, we could talk about that guy all day because he is almost like a 50-50. You're with him or you're without him.
That's the point.
Whereas us as individuals, and you just said about the reform with the criminal justice system, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So it might be a Trump thing, but it's a good thing. But if you take that initiative as an individual initiative, one good thing happened.
Yeah.
But Trump, you just throw the Trump blanket over it, and whether it's Trump good or Trump bad,
Yeah.
that's sensationalism.
That's where it gets weird.
Yeah, and dude, like what I was talking to my friend Chris.
Yep.
The media is out there to make money. It's capitalistic. When you consume something or you purchase something, and I told him, voting, the most powerful voting tool is your money, because you're willing to spend your hard-earned time and effort on what you buy. And if you're consuming media and you're watching ads, when you watch it, excuse me, I have hiccups, I'm drinking this beer here.
Yep.
When you watch it and consume it, you're saying, this is okay, give me more. And that's one of the big problems with the sensationalism. Like, it's almost, you can't draw yourself away. It's almost like watching a fight spring up. Like, you're watching a professional basketball game or you're at an arena and a fight happens in the stands. Guess what?
Yeah.
You're going to look at the fight. So
that's a good way to put it, yeah.
The sensationalism keeps happening. And so we're the mainstream or the masses are stuck on it. And that's the surefire way. If you do mass media, you need mass consumption. To get mass consumption, you have to appeal to the masses. And with that 50-50 triggering sensationalism, that's it. Yeah. So we almost have to get to a point, like, if you're on the internet, first of all, thank you if you're getting most of your sources from the internet, but it's your choice. So if we keep constantly choosing Fox News, if we keep choosing CNN, I don't know if ABC is that bad, whatever, but whatever you're consuming or whatever you're purchasing to consume, you're saying this is okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, because you said, like, money is a currency with politics, right? Like, that's how you do it. But it's a weird thing because attention and currency has become like one and the same.
Oh, they are, dude. It's
like,
everywhere.
It's so obvious at this point.
Dude, like, okay, for instance, like, there's these Instagram models of the fun. Yeah. They're influencers, right? So once they get like 1 million something followers, they'll put a little ad while they're showing their ass off or something like that.
Yeah.
And so attention is turning into currency. Like, how can you get a message out there? How can you influence people's minds? In the mind and your consciousness is the most powerful thing, because you can have a powerful tank, but if the thing doesn't move, it does nothing, right? So the same thing with your mind. If you don't use it, it does nothing. But if you choose to be active, like you and I, at least, whether whoever's listening to this out there, at least we're getting something out there. We're making an effort, and someone's consuming this effort.
Yeah.
Something's getting done.
Yeah, I mean, I find it reassuring how huge podcasts have become.
Yeah.
Like, the Rogan podcast is obviously my favorite thing ever. And it's great because it's so mainstream now at this point, where it becomes a news story that someone's on the Rogan podcast, and then like Elon Musk or the Twitter CEO was just on last week, which is fun. But like, it's become a thing. Like, imagine if like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have a 3-hour podcast.
Oh my God. Well, that just wouldn't be a real cast.
Oh, it
wouldn't be real.
No, but it should be real. That's the thing.
It wouldn't be. Like, those people are so fake and messaged up and public relations and marketing.
You can't hide during a 3-hour podcast, is what I'm saying.
But you can. They hide during debates.
I know.
They have debate, but that's all structured. I mean,
I know, but we got to break all that down. And that's part of the reason why Trump won, because he just was like, this is ridiculous. Like, he just started being like insane on stage. Yeah. And instead of being like the Ted Cruz, Hillary Clinton robot thing, he was just talking shit. He was a comedian at that point.
Yeah, he was.
And he was entertaining, and people bought into it, you know? But I want to see more podcasts in 2019 where 3 hours, we're sitting down and we're going to talk about this. You know, like, take your pick. I mean, whoever you can think of, we can talk now about people you want to see. But I want to see Cenk Uygur talk to Alex Jones for 3 hours.
Woo, man.
They've podcasts here and there. They've had, like, little talks. But I want 3 hours where lock them in a room and just hash it out, guys. Like, what's the issue here? What's going on?
You know? It sucks because, like, I've been able to diminish my ego and my pride, but they have enough because they have their jobs and their careers involved with a discussion like that. So they they can't just dive into that. They have to deflate. Both of them have to choose to deflate a little bit before they go onto a podcast if that were to happen with each other. But, I mean, like, dude, people's careers are in media. They're getting their money. They're getting their livelihood. They have to bank on sensationalism if they're getting their salaries for the year. It's this vicious cycle of capitalism, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's another kind of problem, but...
Yeah, but I mean, capitalism right now is the only game in town. I know there's a lot of people on the left who think we can break it down and create this Marxist utopia or whatever, but capitalism is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and you have to make it work within the framework of capitalism and make improvements. I mean, a slight tangent. We do. I can't look it up.
I'll bring it back.
Bring it back. But the guy in Europe, I forgot his name, who's cleaning the oceans of all the plastics. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I heard.
You guys can look him up. He's pretty well known, but he's taking a problem, which is there's too much plastic in the ocean, and he's saying, all right, how do we fix it? You get a bunch of boats, you suck up all the plastic, and then you use the plastic and you make a profit because you sell it back and you recycle it. There's a financial incentive to clean the oceans, and that's what people need more of. They're in the framework of capitalism. There's a financial incentive to give poor people jobs, to clean the environment, to have renewable energy. All this stuff is it's right in our grasp. We just have to do it.
And to bring you back in terms of like the divisive media, why is this guy not being covered more?
Yeah,
but that's good news.
Because it goes against the narrative. That's the thing, because it's a capitalist, a white European capitalist who's solving this giant problem, and there's no story there. That's the weird thing. It's like, okay, cool. He's getting all the plastic out of the ocean. Like, well, the government didn't take over. Like, shouldn't there be a government takeover for that? Like, no. You don't have to. The government doesn't have to take over. You don't have to have like, whatever. I mean, you don't have to do it. People are just preemptively solving the problem. Like Elon Musk, I think is great because he's just like, here, what's the problem? Traffic in LA is too bad. It's too bad. I'm gonna build a tunnel, and he's doing it.
He's awesome.
He's great.
Yeah,
he's
awesome.
Iron Man, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's our modern day Iron Man.
Yeah, but I mean, people just want to have this thing, like this childish instinct to like break the whole system down and rebuild it. Like, you don't have to. Work within the framework we got and make it better. And what I want to do with this podcast is just do it on my own level, and with your help, just kind of fix my own shit. That's it.
Are you using me, Mike?
I'm using you. I'm using you for my own selfish benefit, all right? And you're going to have to deal with that.
No, honestly, and this is to you and also people that are watching. One of the reasons I want to do this podcast, I never have time to reach out to everyone. It's impossible. I try to affect the environment around you. I just help my friends passing from 2018 to 2019. I let them live in my apartment for a little while. I was just trying to help people along. I help. I'm not trying to inflate my ego by saying that, but like I did help. I reached out. I did a little bit for the world, even if it's just two people I know. And I could do that more often, but some people I want to contact, I want to talk to, I don't have the time. And I feel like with these conversations that we have recorded, we can copy and paste essentially our views. Like, hey, listen, I think it'd be great for you. Like my friend Kevin I just had here. I think he should do yoga and meditate because he needs to de-stress. Now, I can have that conversation with him, which I had the ability to, but if I didn't, I'm like, Kev, I need you to listen to this. Here, I talked about yoga. We talked about it with Mason. Listen to this podcast. And I did some good. I had a copy and pasted recorded conversation. And I can do something with that later.
Well, it's funny because at my job, and my friends that I'm really close with or whatever, like when we see each other, it's very like, hey man, how's it going? Oh yeah, and we're just like kind of doing our own thing, and we're at the bar or we're at work, and there's no time to sit down and look at someone for an hour and just talk. And even if it wasn't recorded, like this is really healthy just to do this.
Yeah.
So it's a call out to anyone who is interested. It's like, I'll talk to you. I know you feel the same way. Like, I'll talk to anyone about anything. I don't care. And I know that there's going to be a lot of controversial things we're going to talk about. Anything from sex to religion to politics to death to God knows what else. I mean, everything and in between. It's controversial. It's scary. It's frustrating. There's a lot of high emotions. But it's worth having the conversation.
It does. Yeah. And it's worth having the conversation. And like you said in our last season, if you say something that might have gone too far, and we're learning, you have to give the person an out.
Absolutely.
You have to let us redact. Like, I might say something now that seemed completely normal and beneficial, and then in the future, if they come back to me, I'm like, holy shit, I said that?
Yeah.
I didn't really mean it like that. I didn't have enough information.
But I think people right now are afraid to just speak what's on their mind because they're afraid that they might get fired.
Your career is old. Look, did you hear about Liam Neeson?
A little bit.
Okay, I'll paraphrase for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it real quick. Cliff notes, okay? he was on an interview recently,
Hmm.
and he admitted to some racist thoughts when he was way younger.
Hmm.
I think a family member was raped, and she said she handled it fine, but the information got out that it was a darker man.
Hmm.
And so when he was younger, this is years ago, he's had a full career. I've watched Taken. I loved his movies. Qui-Gon Jinn. Fuck yeah, all this Liam Neeson
Do
stuff.
not talk about the prequels with me, by the way.
Sorry.
Don't. That's a sore
Just
subject.
saying.
Go ahead. Taken was great, by the way. Go ahead.
Yes.
Rob Roy.
So he gave us all these great media gifts,
Yep.
and now we find out he had a bit of a racist weakness way back when, and it was out of rage because someone raped someone in his family, and he had these thoughts, which are completely diminished. And he's just saying at that moment in his life, that was a bad spot for him. But the media, the media is blowing it up like his career's over. It's over. It's not, I'm like, he had his career.
He's 60-something.
What
He's
are they trying to
fine.
sensationalize
He can
out of
retire. He's good, No, but the weird thing is, like, it's more controversial that he may have had some racist thoughts than his friend getting raped.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, I'm just confused by all this type of stuff. Like, if someone gets raped, that's way worse than a racist comment, right? Am I crazy in thinking that? Like, the sex and race and all that stuff, it gets really weird. It gets controversial and all this nonsense. But like I would see news stories on like Yahoo where like a woman would be caught like saying something racist in like Idaho. And that's like a news story. Why is that a news story? Like, and that goes back to kind of what we're saying. It's just like, oh, this is an excuse for white people and black people to hate each other. Let's put this on the news and let's have people split in between.
It keeps
weird
happening, Mike. Like,
no,
I've shut it off.
Yeah.
I want legitimate information. That's one of the reasons it's great to follow Elon Musk. He gives you interesting information. He even tweets some funny things. He even trolls, right?
Yeah.
But I'm looking for information. I'm already kind of over this divisive this what do we have? Division that we have. And you could almost like list all the teams. There's even men versus women. No, it should be women versus men, And then there's all the gender roles versus the binary, and then there's the cops versus the minority communities and all the injustices happening there. And then there's now the people that would let the people, the migrant, the immigrants that are traveling through Mexico. There's people that want to let them in and take care of them, and there's people like, let them stay out there. Like, there's all these teams, there's all this division, and we keep consuming it, which is the problem.
Yeah, like I don't want to be on anyone's team. Like, I'm on team Mike and Bosa. That's the only team I want to be on. Why don't we
stop? Like, this is a genuine request from me to my friends and people that I interact with. Let's stop inflating this sensationalism. Why don't we start working on problems? It's probably that's effort and it's boring. Now I just answered my own question. Why are we not focusing on this problem? Because it takes effort and it's boring. Yeah. I don't want to do it. I'd rather sit home and just be like, with my popcorn. What are these guys doing? Are they going to cross this wall? They think they're getting across the border.
Well, I mean, I think that's a Jocko Willing quote where he goes, there's a big difference between something being easy and something being simple. Like, that's a big difference. Like, there might be a simple thing that you have to do, but it's extremely difficult to do it. And that's what people forget. Like, it's a simple thing is eat better. Simple thing.
Yeah.
It's difficult, though, and people don't do it.
Oh, here's what I do all the time, right?
Yeah.
I could put my cognitive effort to a lot of things, but I wind up finding myself lifting big boxes and putting them somewhere else because it feels like I can do this huge, simple effort, put the box somewhere else, and I'm done. Right? And so, but then if you have all these, when you're moving, you have all these little things. Like, you got to move the kitchen and the forks and the cups. You got to wrap the cups up and put them in the box. That sucks.
Yeah.
I just want to move this bookshelf. Look at that. I moved that whole bookshelf over there, and you're still in the kitchen moving little glasses.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like is making the good effort right now for the society. We have to dig into the micro issues. You have to dig into the individuals in your life and the issues that surround your community. But everything is mass consumption right now.
Yeah.
So after you're done working at probably a corporation that does mass production for mass consumerism, you go home and you listen to mass media. There's no individuals, and you barely talk to your friends because there's not enough time because you're exhausted after your whole day and then commuting. And
yeah, the weird thing about that is it's slightly encouraging and it's slightly tragic is I think people right now are doing the same thing over and over again. Like they go to work, they come home, they watch Netflix, they go on the internet, they go to sleep. You know, like everybody's kind of doing the same thing. Like I guess video games, porn, and movies.
You're
and,
not wrong.
You know, like everybody's kind of doing the same 6 things, and then sports, and then like, you know, maybe like fantasy football or something. But there's only like 10 or 12 things that everybody's doing over and over again. And the internet's one of them. So everybody's kind of on the internet. Yeah, memes. Everybody loves a good meme. But do you know anybody right now who doesn't have the internet? No, everybody has the internet at this point, right? Nobody's like, "Oh, I'm not on the internet. I don't care anymore." Everybody's on the internet. That's why it's kind of frustrating because we're just like
we're here.
We're just forced to connect with each other through the internet, but that's not the best format ever. Podcasts are way better. I'm going to harp on this all the time.
Yeah.
But podcasting is so much better than Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and any of this nonsense going on right now. And more people should podcast.
I'm trying. I'm an advocate.
If there's anyone out there who are friends of you or me and they just want a podcast, like come on the fuck on.
We're trying to figure this out. Right now,
Yeah.
Right now it's easy to have you and I only on the show.
Yeah.
Is it simple to have other people? Yes, we just talk.
Yeah.
But the effort is a whole different story.
Yeah.
You know, getting someone from New York or we've talked about having guests. It's a little, especially in the space that we have. I love our space right now, but it would get more difficult if we added people. But you know what? I got to work on it. We got to make sure we can accommodate more people.
Is there a website that people can contact us? Facebook, whatever, if someone wants to...
I'll put that all in the YouTube description and in the description of the audio casts, which I'm going to start putting on multiple places.
Yep.
Since this is now season 1, Mike, figured we're going to start advertising. I'm going to start clipping the good things that we say. Not that I'm hoping for viral things, but it'll give people... It's like a little sample of what we're doing, almost like music. I feel like I'm pushing my mixtape. I'm like, hey, I got a podcast. You listen to it. You know, that's like my mixtape. But I feel like if we took excerpts of what we're saying, and if our friends could help us too, you're more than welcome to be part of the cast and say, hey, you know that 2 minutes that you guys for not ranted, but like went on about this topic, you should probably clip that because I learned something.
Well, another thing too, like if there's anyone who is like an expert at anything and you want to just share your expertise, I'd love to just pick someone's brain about something even boring, like maybe even finance or whatever. Like take your cars. If someone's just a car expert, I don't know shit about cars, but like I'll ask you about cars for an hour and I'll just pick your brain just because I want to learn stuff. I mean, and I think podcasting is a great format just to learn things objectively. Just like, wait, how does that work again? Because I hated school for this reason because it was lecture. It was take notes. It was sit there and just listen and like
consume.
And it was just like it wasn't even a conversation. It was just like this is what happened in Vietnam and this is how you do calculus. And just like it wasn't as engaging as it should have been because both calculus and history and everything we learned in school was fascinating, but school managed to make it boring. That was the weird thing because if you look at mathematics, I sucked at math my entire life. If I knew how interesting mathematics was when I was a little kid, I would have paid attention a lot more and I would have tried a lot harder.
It's the application of it. Like
it's just
our
bananas.
application is a test. You know, like I hear these people that go to colleges for engineering and stuff. Their final is to make a running car, like a small running one-person car.
Yeah.
You have to learn. Because if you don't, you are not going to make a car.
Yeah.
If you take a test, you might get some things right or wrong. But if you don't learn at all, that car does not get made. There was a joke on the internet about a professor, his class had to make a plane. And they said, okay, to pass this test, you have to stay on the plane while it flies. And all the students got off. And then the professor stayed on. He's like, well, why are you still here if everybody else is? Like, this thing's not leaving the ground.
Yeah.
I know their test scores. But the application of knowledge is a must.
Yeah.
Like we just had the yoga podcast before 2018 finished. If someone's listening to that, they can go now, put on a stream or a YouTube and learn how to do yoga. Like you could take your knowledge and apply it.
No.
If you're stressed out, we're telling you go meditate. Okay, I've learned that maybe that might de-stress me. I'll go watch a video, learn how to meditate. And so it's about applying your knowledge, which you can do with podcasts, even just social interaction and conversations. My conversations with people are so much more enlightened and interesting now that I've listened to podcasts. And I've been telling people, it's like I was averaging for a little there, like an hour of podcast a day for 3 years because you started me, right?
Yep.
That's a couple college educations.
Oh yeah.
Can I apply it? Am I getting certified for it? No.
Yeah, that's the other thing about podcasting, which I kind of want to fix this year, is that you have a lot of weird knowledge about. I mean, if you listen to like Graham Hancock for 3 hours,
Yeah.
it's really fun information, but there's no practical really utility to that knowledge. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just fascinating for its own sake,
Well,
which is fine. But like the things that I want to learn this year are things that will have a use in my life. Like if it's more money, if it's more, better relationships, if it's just like healthier body, healthier diet, whatever it is. But that's what I want to focus on.
all right. Well, hey, Mike, let's do a focus. All right.
Okay.
This season, I've told a couple of my friends, and now I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell everybody that's listening. I wanted to focus on depression and stopping it. So
Yeah.
anything you can do to reduce depression, reduce this feeling in you and the people around you, I wanted to get accomplished. Our
Yeah.
next episode, which I already did with Chris, he is a suicide survivor. And you get to hear his story on how he survived and his completely new outlook on life and how he's excited for every forward ongoing moment. You don't see that kind of enthusiasm every day. Like, you're not going to work like, yes! Yes! He wants to go to work now. Like, he wants to heal up. He wants to start working. He wants to start talking to people. I taught him a lot. We talked about health. We talked about fitness. There's so much we got to talk about that he didn't know beforehand, and he wants to apply it all now.
No.
And so with this season, hopefully, I'm trying to find an expert on depression medications, if they're working, if it's just covering up a problem. I want to have more people that maybe have depression and can identify with it. But like, we're trying to figure this out. And I think one of the things that are plaguing us is like, we just don't want to be bothered because we don't have abundant positive energy to take on tough, grueling issues.
Well, yeah. I mean, a couple of things. I mean, first off, we're not experts on this field, so anyone who's actually having struggled with depression, you got to talk to someone who's qualified. But we'll do our best with what we got. You know what I mean? I do find I'm looking forward to hearing Chris's podcast that you did, because I stepped away. I wanted you guys just to have your own thing, and that's fun for me because now I get to listen to a podcast and I get to respond to it, which is cool. So I'll do that in time. And I think if someone experiences really horrible things, whatever it is, the appropriate response is always to become happier, because you appreciate the happiness a lot more.
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson would immediately shut that down and say, wait, happiness is not what you want. You want to handle the burden of life, whatever. I forgot the exact phrase he used, but it would be more like you bear your load and you do it like a man or a woman. You know what I mean? Like, happiness is just what happens when you're having a productive life. It's not just something you aspire to begin with. And that's something we can always play with this year, just saying like, I think too many people, they try to find happiness, and that's kind of like a dead end. It's kind of empty. Like, you want purpose, you want struggle, and you want to challenge yourself, because then you'll get happy because you've struggled. But if you're just seeking happiness, you're going to be overweight on the couch, eating Funyuns and watching Netflix, and like, yeah, you're happy, but you're not struggling, and you're not going to be, complete. If there ever is such a thing as complete, I don't know.
And to bring this back to the division that the media is causing, the only thing I think the media does is present the issues to us. Like when Trump got elected and racism came out of the closet and all that stuff, we can now see the issue. We can now deal with it. We see all the divisions. If people were in better moods, I feel like we can deal with these divisions more often. If you're having a great day, you're just kind of like whistling, getting on the train and stuff, if someone bumps into you, you're like, oh, it's all right, dude. Sorry about that. Didn't see you. Yeah, but if you're having a bad day, hey, watch yourself. Like, your whole thing changes.
I ride a subway every day. I know the feeling.
Yeah, so that's why I figured I'd relate it to you like that. So I just feel like if people were able to find happier moments more frequently, then it would include people into those happier moments. Then we can also have these discussions that cross the line, get out of your comfort zone a little bit, and start really negotiating how we act as human beings socially. And in this global gridlock, we need to do it.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of work we got to do. And if it's just you, me, and like a couple of other people listening to this, like, we're all in this together, and we'll just kind of get somewhere at the end of, let's say, a year of doing podcasting at minimum. We're going to learn a lot in a year of podcasting between who we talk to and hashing out our ideas. And I know I'm wrong about a lot of things, man. I know I'm just wrong. And I want to find out where I'm wrong, why I'm wrong, and how to become not so much right, but less wrong.
Wrong.
I want to be less wrong about some things. But the problem is I think I'm right about some things, and that's dangerous because proving someone wrong is a really weird thing because usually they double down on being wrong instead of admitting that they're wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's a weird thing that people do. And if I want to talk to people that I disagree with, that I would not see eye to eye with in a lot of ways, but if they prove me wrong about something, I'm going to admit it. I'm openly going to admit I'm wrong about this.
And you'll be less wrong in the future because you learned something.
Yeah, and that's all you can really do.
I was talking to my brother. I had some time to talk to him because my grandmother got sick, and so took like an emergency vacation to go see her. And I had a lot of time to speak with my brother. And my brother was going through some stuff too. And we just finished a podcast with Mason. And Mason, with her death in yoga and her philosophy on like just travel through life with the least amount of pain possible, came up in that discussion. And the conversation that I had with my brother helped him with a couple things that was going on in his life. So just we just gotta unwrong yourself. Like you might not be right, but stop being wrong. Right?
Yeah. I mean, tell the truth, or at the very least, don't lie. You know, that's a Jordan Petersonism, you know. But I like the fact that, you know, the podcast with Mason just made you and your brother have a better relationship. Yeah. I mean, that's not a small thing. People don't realize. Like, I know so many.
The very first conversation I had with that girl, improved life.
But that's how you save the world. You just like, you know what I mean? Like, if you just have a better relationship with your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your brother or your sister, that's how you start saving the world. Because if you and your people in your life, everybody's okay, and they spread that, 20 years, man. Imagine what the world will look like in 20 years if everybody just took care of each other and improved everybody and didn't just wallow in like victimhood and oppression and racism and all this crazy shit going on right now.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if we just like improved ourselves first and improved people around us that wanted to be improved. That's a big thing. And we're always going to talk about that. If you don't want to be improved, it's not going to work. It's just you're going to waste your time. If nobody's interested, nobody's interested. But if you're out there and you want to be a better person, if you want to be stronger and smarter, I think this podcast will hopefully be a pretty good tool where we'll help you along the way. So,
when I was a kid, Mike, I think did we all watch Nickelodeon? I think Nickelodeon.
I watched Nickelodeon.
If you had cable TV, Nickelodeon was a universal thing, and they did this thing which I think we should kind of implement.
I can't wait for this.
You're going to understand what I'm saying. They had a telethon or a marathon called The Big Help.
Okay.
And they know kids can't call in and pledge money, but what you can do is call a toll-free number and pledge how many hours you were going to help people. And that's why they called it The Big Help. And every year, the telethon, they would have guests and all that stuff, and people would start pledging hours that they're just genuinely going to help other people.
Yep.
And I never pledged. I didn't pick up the phone.
Now's your chance.
But I understand that you could just apply that in life. Like, I've got some abundance. I'm just going to help.
Yep.
I have some time. I can talk to this person. I'll reach out to the person with the radically different view on Facebook or social networking and say, actually, you want to talk about it instead of just posting?
Yeah.
And I've had some interesting conversations doing that. But we all do. Once you have a little bit of abundance, try to create some abundance for yourself. Try to create less hardship, some more happiness. Then you'll have some abundance in time and stuff. And I think that's where we need to go, and that's why I wanted to dedicate the season to figuring out less depression, try to show people how to be happy, maybe some methods. We already started with Mason doing yoga. That'll de-stress you. It might not make you happy, but it'll deflate stress. And we'll go into more stuff like that too.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. If you just do like really hard exercising like 3 times a week, everything else is just like, it's easier.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's easier because your workouts are harder than whatever you're dealing with in your life or whatever it is. So I really think if people just did that first for 3 months, just 3 days a week, you're doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're doing you're sweating, you're breathing heavy, and you're just like, holy jeez, and you collapse on your bed after a hot shower, after a nice workout, and you just fall asleep for 8 hours, and you wake up. That's like half the battle, man.
You have a sense of accomplishment. You took care of your body. You got chemical. There's no loss there unless you hurt yourself.
Yeah, don't
hurt
hurt yourself. That's something I've done
loss.
before, where I fuck up my back because I did too many pull-ups. Be smart, don't be stupid. You know the deal. So, and are we wrapping up soon?
Yeah, I think we should wrap up.
One thing I want to add.
Go for it. Do Mike's final segment.
Note
it's always a segment.
Is my favorite video on the internet is by Jocko Willink. You know exactly which one I'm going to say.
Yes.
It's a video called Good.
Good.
Just type in Jocko Willink, Willink, Good, and just watch that. That's my only homework assignment for anyone listening to this, because I think it's like the greatest video on YouTube, because it's a great place to start.
It's a good start.
Because if you start there with just the philosophy of good, and not just the Jocko Willink definition, but the moral implications of being a good person, and what does that mean? So I love the word good for that reason, because it's like, I want to do good, but if something bad happens, good.
Good.
Like,
dude, because you sent me that video, I can only hear good in that voice now.
Yeah.
And when someone says good, I'm like, good. Like, yeah. I'll add that extra to it every time.
I think people think I'm crazy at work, though, because things are just falling apart around me, and I'm just getting, like, normal face, like Jocko Willink normal face, and they think, like, but do you not care about the situation? Like, no, I care, but in my mind, I'm just saying, good. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yep. I wish I had some homework for everyone, but I talk to all my friends on such a weekly basis, I'll say.
Yeah.
When I get to talk to them, I kind of prescribe some sort of medicine. It's like my own prescription. You probably should listen to this podcast, or you should probably read this book. So I can't give you a general statement, but if anybody reaches out to me and wants to talk to me, I always have something personalized for you, because I can kind of evaluate the situation. Not everybody's at the same place.
Yep.
But I think good is universal.
Yeah.
So go ahead, and everybody should go watch that and look that up.
And that's all I got for now, because I can't wait to do this next week, and we'll keep going.
So we're gonna keep moving on. Episode 2 is gonna be with Chris, who was a suicide survivor, and listening to his outlook on life is incredible right now, because he hit literally concrete bottom, and now just wants nothing more than to experience life. And his transformation is amazing, and I hope his story inspires everybody that's listening. And with that, I think we should get out of here, Mike.
I think so.
Finish these beers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody, and thank you sincerely for being part of this.